It's another day, left jab, right jab, this is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim, looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting, if you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go, I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show, this the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC 263. I'm super excited for today's episode because, quite simply, this card is just stacked. It's stacked. We're going to have a full crowd in attendance over there in Glendale, Arizona, which makes these fight cards even more exciting. But there's just so many different fights that I'm excited for. And it's not just the main event. It's not just Izzy versus Marvin. There's other fights on this fight card that are just really, really intriguing. So overall, as you guys can tell, I'm quite excited to get in today's breakdown video. Of course, take note, we're going to do a recap of the prior fight card that we just had take place. We are going to take a look into some, just briefly, we're going to take a look into some of the recent MMA news. And then, of course, we'll get into the main focus point here for today's episode, which is the full breakdown of UFC 263. I will have timestamps for all you guys. Remember, there's timestamps right below. So if you guys don't want to hear a certain segment, just remember you guys have that option here. I want to thank every single one of you guys that have been tuning in for all my material and content that's coming to you guys. We've been doing the divisional breakdowns. Seems like a lot of you guys did enjoy the Ultimate Fighter episode recaps. Got a lot of views there, so I do appreciate you guys tuning in for that as well. I'm excited for this week's episode, and again, you'll have that video coming out to you guys the following day. So just want to take a second here to just let you guys know I appreciate every single one of you guys, for the support. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. It really does help me out over here. I'm working on some things here behind the scenes, and I'm going to be making a push to really try to grow this channel over the next year. Going to have a whole new studio, and like I promised you guys, going to be going to a lot of these events live, and I'm going to get a lot of good content there as well. So appreciate every single one of you. If you can give me a follow on Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _, get me on Twitter, the MMA Teller, and that's about it, man. Thank you guys. With no further ado, let's take a look into the recent MMA news and what's been going on over the past week. So we got a couple stories I do want to touch upon. Of course, this whole Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather thing has really taken over the MMA news over the past week. The fight took place last night. I'll briefly touch upon that. I don't know what you guys expected. I don't know if any of you guys really expected something more than what we got. Paul was the way bigger man. He was able to tie Floyd up a little bit there. Floyd landed a couple clean punches here and there, and it was just an exhibition, man. I didn't expect much more. Floyd's getting up there in age. He never really had that knockout power anyway. If he's going to get a knockout on these types of guys, they got to really gas themselves out, and then he can kind of put them away like we saw him do to Conor. But I don't know. I mean, I tune in. I pretty much turned this one off before the fight even finished, so I'm not crazy about these types of fights. I will be a little bit more intrigued into the Jake Paul versus Woodley fight, but I don't know. What can I say, guys? I don't know. How do you guys feel about these types of fights? I don't know. I know some dudes that went out to the event and were spending thousands of dollars to watch an event like that. I think it's ludicrous when you could be spending that type of money to go to a dope-ass UFC event where it's just you're getting nonstop action. You're getting what? Look at a fight card like this. You're getting 14 solid fights. I mean, real legitimate fights compared to these freak shows. And that they end up being boring half the time anyway. These boxing matches. Boxing has nothing on the sport of MMA, and that's how I feel about it. But in the meantime, I'll tune in. I'll watch some of these bigger name freak show fights, and they ain't gonna get my money though. I'll tell you that much. What else we got going on? So, like I said, a bunch of Paul type stuff. Ariel Helwani looks like he's leaving ESPN. Supposedly, he says it's on his terms. I don't know how honest he's being there. There's been some rumors that they were going to part ways for a while. I think it was kind of mutual, so I don't think he really had a choice there. Big announcement is coming. and he's headed to Action Network. To be quite honest, I didn't even look if did he announce. Let's see here. Did he announce exactly where he's going to be going? I know there were some rumors, maybe possibly he'd be going to Bellator, which wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing for him, if you ask me. But take a look here. It says he's heading to Action Network. Is Action Network an actual a legit network over here? I don't know. He'll be working with the Action Network. Okay. I'm not even that familiar with that, with Action Networks. If anyone has a little bit more clarity on that, man, throw it in the comments below. But I'm not the biggest fan of Ariel, to be quite honest. I don't know how you guys feel about him. I think that he makes it a lot about himself the majority of the time, rather than what's going on in the fight game and the fighter. So I'm not really crazy about him. What else we got here? Colby Covington and Usman. That looks like that's the fight we're gonna get there for the belt next. I'm excited for that. I think that's the deserving fight. You guys know how I feel about that. It's the most competitive fight in the division. We got Anthony Smith taking on Ryan Spawn. That will be September 18th. It's a solid fight there. I like that fight, and I kind of, my preliminary thoughts are, I'm edging Anthony Smith there, but we'll get into the fight tape and all that, and we'll have an extensive breakdown as time comes. How about Paulo Costa? This guy, man, I don't know, man. I think he's barking up the wrong tree, because the things that he's saying, I think he's really going to lead himself down a path, man, where he's going to really, his UFC career is just going to fall apart. Dana White does not play that game. He's complaining about fighter pay. He's complaining about this, that, saying that, the UFC obviously did a little jab to him. They announced the fight before he even signed and said he was going to commit to that fight. So the UFC is playing games with him as well. They're letting him know who the boss is, and he won't come out on the winning end of that. I'm telling you guys right now. So keep an eye on Costa's career to fall apart. Maybe he ends up in Bellator eventually or somewhere else, because I don't know. To me, it has the makings of something bad for him. And I'm not really sure why he's doing that, man. The guy just, I don't know, man. What else? Look, we got another freak show in the making. Vitor Belfort and YouTuber Tarzan. We got another one of those. That guy Tarzan. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. Wild dude. But those fights are just going to keep coming. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We got Carlos Condit and Max Griffin targeted for UFC 264 in July. That's a cool fight there. And the last thing I want to say, which I will be putting out a full breakdown for Bellator 260, which is coming up this Friday. We got a hell of a fight here, man. Diego Lima versus Amasov. The Amasov is an absolute beast, the Ukrainian fighter who is undefeated. He's coming off a big win against Logan Storley, a guy that we've had on the show. I told you when those guys fought, those are two of the highest caliber welterweight fighters in the world fighting each other. That's not taking place in the UFC. So, Amasov had that win there. You guys know Diego Lima, this is Douglas Lima. No, I'm sorry about that. Douglas Lima, excuse me. The young, he's the older brother, I believe. But Douglas Lima, obviously the way more talented Lima brother, fighting over in Bellator, one of the more legit welterweight fighters on planet Earth. I'd put him in the top 5 quite easily. So the winner of that fight, man, is really can almost stake the claim as possibly the best welterweight fighter in the world. Of course, I'd put Usman above him, but he can maybe argue that if he could ever make it, one of these guys can make their way over to the UFC, maybe we could actually see that play out. But who knows? Other big fights on the fight card. Like I said, this breakdown video will be coming out to you guys, but we got Paul Daly throwing down with Jason Jackson. Aaron Pico's fighting once again. It's always exciting when he's in there. Win or lose, somebody's getting knocked out there. So, I'm excited for the main event, most importantly, though. So that will be coming to you guys here very shortly. And that's going to wrap up what's been going on as far as the MMA news goes. And we're going to be doing a recap now of UFC Fight Night Rosenstruck versus Sakai. So we had the big heavyweight fighters throwing down in the main event. That fight did not last long at all. We will be getting to that here in a minute. We'll start our way at the bottom of the card. Claudio Puelles takes out Jordan Levitt. Derails the hype train of Jordan there. Jordan was a guy that, I felt pretty comfortable that this guy is a solid grappler. I thought he brought a lot to the table as far as with what his grappling is and whatnot. Puelles obviously has some underrated grappling as well, but I thought Levitt would have shined there on the mat. I thought Puelles would had to have stuffed the takedowns and really exploit Jordan's striking. That wasn't the case, though. He out-grappled Jordan there. So Jordan Levitt, in my opinion, there's a major question mark on him, and I don't expect him to really be hanging around the UFC that long, to be quite honest, which is crazy because not too long ago this was a guy we thought maybe had a real X factor and whatnot. But if you can't hold your own in the mat with a guy like Puelles, you can't strike. You're due for some big losses there. Sean Woodson gets the split decision over Yusuf Zalal. The size was too much. He was able to stuff the takedowns of Zalal, pulls the victory off there. Sean Woodson, I'm happy for him, but at the same time, I was on his Instagram story. I guess he was familiar with me, and I guess he likes to just kind of, talk trash a little bit to everybody on his feed. But he kind of has an attitude and whatnot. I was showing him nothing but love, but the guy was, I guess he doesn't like, guys that are talking about his fights and whatnot. It seemed like, but nevertheless, good for him. Got a victory there. It was much needed. Menin Farouk was way too big for Tabitha Ritchie. Don't sleep on Tabitha. I think she'll be back, when she could actually fight in her proper weight division. I think she'll definitely get another opportunity in the UFC for taking the fight on short notice. Menin Farouk is nasty. Keep an eye on her. I told you her striking is very legit. She's very technical in there. She's serious. Alain Patrick should have lost here to Mason Jones, but if we had one of those unfortunate incidences where we had an eye poke and whatnot, and Mason Jones was hurting Patrick early in the beginning of that fight. Keep an eye on Mason Jones moving forward. This guy is going to be carrying the flag for Wales. He's going to be one of the top fighters in that region in the near future. I really believe that. He's a solid, well-rounded fighter. Kimwella Kirk takes out Makwan Amerikani. This is one of the more newly added bouts. You guys heard me. I threw up that little update video. We had four newly added bouts to this card. I told you Kimwella Kirk is no joke. Keep an eye, possible value there, and I regret not taking that bet there. So, it is what it is. Muslim Salikov takes out Francisco Trinaldo. The striking of Muslim once again shines. Very technical. Alir Latifi pulls off the upset on Tanner Boser. I told you guys, we all talked about it. Tanner Boser is a guy that I really, after that one fight against Andrei Arlovsky, man, I thought this was a guy at that line you did not want to touch. This guy's hesitant in there, and there's some question marks about him. He had a couple big wins early in his UFC career, but there's definitely some question marks on him, and Alir Latifi's a solid dude. I didn't like him at that line at all. Montana De La Rosa uses her wrestling abilities to absolutely smash Ariane Lipski. If you guys saw Ariane Lipski's face after the fight, she got beat down. Black eyes, swelled up, everything. It was really a bad beating. So good to see Montana De La Rosa doing her thing, and she's still very young in the game. Gregory Rodriguez, this was a dog pick for me here. If you guys heard the updated video, I told you guys Gregory Rodriguez, this guy is no joke. He's a nasty striker, has nasty jiu-jitsu, training at one of the best fight camps in the game right now. Dusko Todorovic, this guy drops his hands low, and again, even though he wasn't knocked out this time, he was tagged up. He got pieced up. He leaves his hands too low. Doesn't look good for the judges' scorecards. And, we got to really take a step back on this guy, Dusko, who at one point in time had a lot of hype. So Gregory Rodriguez comes through there. Santiago Ponzinibbio takes out Miguel Baeza. This was one of my plays. I took an L here, but I stand behind this play. I'm very high on this guy, Miguel Baeza. I think he's going to learn from this fight here. He won the first round. Started to slow down a little bit. The leg kicks were working early, but he needed to let his hands go a little bit more. Needed to use a little bit better head movement. But what an absolute war! What an amazing fight. Really enjoyed that one, and it was kind of cool to see Santiago bounce back with the victory too after that devastating loss. But what a fight there. Roman Dolge takes out Loreno Staropoli. Just grappled him, took him down, pulled off the victory there. Marcin Tybura cashed this play here. I was all over Marcin. If you guys saw my bet description I posted on my Instagram, I called this fight to a T. Marcin had to avoid the early power of Walt Harris. If he could withstand the early onslaught from Walt, Walt's going to gas out. Marcin's going to wear him down. Could even hurt him on the feet, get the takedown and cause damage. And he ended up getting the finish there with the ground and pound there in the first round, right by the end of the first round. Now Jairzinho Rosenstruck in the main event, he takes out Augusto Sakai. Beautiful punch landed there against the cage. Followed him down to the mat, followed him up with some shots there, and Jairzinho back in the win column. And again, just take into consideration, Jairzinho's only losses against two top guys, Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane. So let's not forget, Jairzinho is a serious fighter. I know he had some moments of fights where he wasn't throwing a lot. I would love to see him against Derek Lewis one way or another. I mean, obviously, that's not really the recipe right now, but if that fight could ever play out, I would like to see that. And there's a lot of big fights for Jairzinho one way or another. So, yeah, man, another exciting night of fights, UFC Vegas 28. And now, with no further ado, let's get into this awesome fight card here coming up. Let's get into it, boys. So 2 belts on the line in the main event and co-main event spots. Other than that, just a bunch of exciting fights. Nate Diaz taking on Leon Edwards. Maia versus Muhammad. Drew Dober versus Brad Riddell, another exciting fight. Eryk Anders versus Darren Stewart, they're running that back. You know how exciting that fight was the first time around. Ended in a little bit of controversy. Chase Hooper taking on Steven Peterson, an excellent stylistic matchup. Carlos Felipe, who is a guy we're going to be talking about here in a second, but a guy that is an exciting fighter too, man. He has some nice hands. He's a polarizing figure in the heavyweight division. I like this fight card. And yeah, with no further ado, let's get right into the first fight of the card. Carlos Felipe taking on Jake Collier. 2 big boys, 2 guys that carry a little bit of extra weight inside the octagon. Carlos Felipe, a guy that a lot of people thought, they thought he was just a joke in the beginning of his UFC career. I can say that I was not one of them. You guys could run the tape back. I was letting you guys know, don't sleep on this guy. He has some solid boxing, and he has proven that over time. Took out Jorgen De Castro, where he really just pieced him up in there. Got a win in his last fight against Justin Tafa, who's a pretty decently good striker for the division as well. So that's a good win on the feet. I mean, Carlos can hold his own on the feet. I'm telling you guys, he has solid boxing. As long as he works on his cardio and his takedown defense, he can give a lot of guys a run for their money there. Jake Collier, this guy has no business fighting in the heavyweight division. We've talked about this before. Although he is coming off a victory against Gene Vellante there. Gene Vellante is another guy that has no business fighting in the heavyweight division. But you know what? Jake Collier did look good in that last fight. And let's take into consideration the loss that he took against Tom Aspinall, which was the first fight we saw him at the heavyweight division where it looked like it was just a joke. Tom Aspinall is an absolute beast, a freak of a fighter. This guy has so much potential. So we won't put him under the magnifying glass too much there, for the sheer fact he bounced back with a good win over there, against Gene Vellante. He's coming into this fight at a plus 170. He's 32 years old. I still feel, even though he's 6'3" and he has a 78.5-inch reach, meanwhile Felipe is only 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. I understand Collier's bigger. I don't know. Something about Collier fighting at this division still rubs me the wrong way. I like Felipe's hands better here. I think this fight is going to stay in the feet. I think Felipe can keep this fight standing there. And I think Felipe, like I said, will have the better boxing, and that will be the key to victory for him there. Looks like he's been looking like he's in good shape for this fight from everything I've been seeing from him. He's been putting in some solid work. He's got the bleached blonde hair. And I think that he's ready to come out here and make a statement. I think this is a good stylistic matchup for him. And as you guys can tell, I like Carlos Felipe to win this fight. Now we take a look at the line. Carlos Felipe is right around a minus 175, up all the way up to minus 210 on certain books. So, be careful what line you're getting him at. I wouldn't really feel comfortable with anything too high. Minus 175, you could possibly work with there. But I do like Carlos Felipe to handle that fight there. And once again, fighting in the first fight of the event, this is a guy, if he can maybe get a knockout, put Collier out in a similar fashion than maybe what Tom Aspinall did, maybe we start to see Felipe get some bigger name fights, which I would like to see. Because since like I've been saying from the beginning, I'm kind of a fan of this guy. I like his attitude. I like the attitude he brings to the weigh-ins. He's my type of fighter. I know that's not everyone's style, but I like those guys that are just ruthless. Get up in the other guy's face. This ain't some type of friendship thing. You're going in there to try to take the other guy out, and I like that type of energy that Felipe brings in there. Not to mention, he's came in there with a pretty sweet mustache and kind of looks like a Pablo Escobar type of dude. He looks like a character out of a bad one of those criminal movies. You know, he looks like one of those how do I explain? You guys know what I'm talking about. One of those bad guys. He just has that grin, and he has that evil look in his eye. So I like Carlos Felipe to win that fight. So for the next fight, we'll work our way down to the lightweight division. We got Firas Zaim taking on Luigi Vendramini. Two young prospects in the game. Both these guys very young. Firas only 24 years old. Well, Luigi is 25 years old. Luigi was undefeated when he made his UFC debut. If you guys remember, he took on Alexis dos Santos, got finished early. At that point in time, I think we all took a step back, especially for the fact that Luigi's undefeated record was all against guys that had very unimpressive records. So we saw that Luigi was fighting very low-level talent. So I think a lot of people took a step back on him, but we got to give him props. He bounced back in his next fight, knocked out Jason Ayari, the tough German fighter there. Looked very good on the feet. So, I think that his stock is rising right now. But he has a big fight in front of him here with Firas Zaim, who's a very technical and polished striker. That's definitely his bread and butter. This guy is a kickboxer fighting out of France. Only 24 years old. Like I said, a very young fighter as well. Firas is very rangy for the division. He's 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. He's going to have... Don't forget about the reach with your legs now, too. Always want to bring that up, Okay, he only has a 2-inch reach advantage with the hands, but he is 6'1". He's long in there. He could throw some nasty kicks. He's coming off a win against Jamie Malarkey. Looked good in that fight. His UFC debut, he lost to Don Madge. He looked decently good in that fight for what the situation was as well, with his age and whatnot. And Don Madge is no joke, and Madge was just holding on to him there. But like I said, this guy's a very polished striker for his age. This is a guy that has a lot of potential over time. We could definitely see him, ruffling things up, but he still has a lot to prove. Seen him brushing shoulders with Kevin Lee, as Kevin Lee, looks to make his return back to the welterweight division. So, training over at Extreme Couture over in Vegas. And I think that we're going to see leaps and bounds of growth from this kid fight to fight. And like I said, Luigi looked very good in that last fight, but I think this fight takes place on the feet for the most part, and I'm going to edge Firas Zaim to win it there. I just think that he might be a little bit more technical. I like his striking. And just to me, he shows to have a little bit more potential than Luigi. But time will tell as far as that's concerned. As far as the live line, we'll take a look. Right now, it's pretty much a pick'em. So this line is pretty much identical on every book that you see here. So whoever you like, you can get a nice tag on it. I like Firas Zaim to win that fight. And the next fight, this one is definitely exciting. Steven Peterson taking on Chase Hooper. Steven Ocho Peterson coming off a big win. He had that spinning back fist knockout against Martin Bravo. Steven Peterson, a tough dude. Fought in Dana White's Contender Series way back in the day when the series really first begun. And, has a good amount of losses that, on his resume, and even his wins aren't the biggest of wins. Split decision over Matt Basete. Even the Martin Bravo was an impressive knockout, but Martin, not the highest caliber of opponent, losing to guys like Bruce Leroy, Luis Pena. I think we know where Steven Peterson's skill level stands, but he's a tough dude. One thing I want you guys to keep in mind with this fight, Steven Peterson has never been submitted throughout his career. And he has a good amount of fights. He has 27 professional fights. He's never been submitted here. Chase Hooper, you guys know the deal with Chase Hooper. Eats a lot of shots, needs to work on a lot more aspects of his game. But in the meantime, he's just young and he's evolving, but his jiu-jitsu game is nasty. Keep in mind, he's only 21 years old. Chase Hooper also came from Dana White's Contender Series, and he really set the precedent with his career then by just taking a bunch of damage early in his fights, wearing the opponent down, and then getting the submission and just, hanging on and being extremely tough. And his BJJ skills are nasty. He's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage. He's the taller fighter here. He's very rangy for the division. We'll take a look at the live line here. Chase Hooper, it's a dead even fight as well. So another fight that's right down the middle. I'm sorry here, but I'm definitely going to have to pick Steven Peterson. As much as I like Chase Hooper, and I think he's going to end up being a pretty solid fighter in the years to come, I still, you take a look at his last fight, right? And I did pick Peter Barrett to defeat him. By the way, I'm going to be uploading an MMA live discussion episode with Peter Barrett very soon here, so you'll see that if you guys are interested in that. He's a cool character. But I picked Peter Barrett to win that fight. Peter Barrett was in complete control. He was on his way to winning the fight until he got subbed in the third round by way of heel hook. Made a mistake there. Again, that entire fight, Chase getting beat up. I expect this fight to play out very similarly. Steven Peterson can handle him on the feet. Just has to stuff those takedowns or avoid those heel hooks and those leg submissions. Any type of Eminari rolls and any of that, just stay back and just piece him up on the feet and cruise your way to a victory. And Steven Peterson carries some power. He's unorthodox in the feet too, so I wouldn't be shocked if he hurt Hooper there, because Hooper will take damage. So yeah, I'm gonna take Steven Ocho Peterson. I would love to see something wild like this again. If Chase Hooper wins, I'd be happy for him as well. I mean, look at this. He's a little kid, man. 21 years old. It's crazy to think. Imagine, you're out at a bar. I think he can get in a bar now. Imagine you're at a bar and a guy like this gives your girl a little pat in the butt and looks up at you and bucks his chin up. You would have no idea what's to come, right? You go in and try to knock this dude out, but this guy would be grabbing on your legs and he'd be ripping your limbs off your body. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, man. The babyface assassin, this guy should be called. Which I know we got another babyface we'll be talking about later, but still, this guy, what a babyface. This is a little boy here, and maybe he pulls off the sub and he'll be celebrating with some M&Ms. But I'm gonna go with Steven Peterson, a guy that's never been subbed yet and should be a better overall fighter. Just has to avoid that submission there. We're going to go back to the lightweight division. Matt Frevola taking on Frank Camacho. Matt Frevola, guy that we've had the pleasure to chat with on MMA Live Discussion. One of the cooler dudes that we've had on the show. I like what Matt Frevola brings to the fight game. Full of energy, willing to engage in a brawl at any given time. Has solid wrestling, good jiu-jitsu skills, decent power. Could definitely work on his technical abilities on the feet. He's not as polished as Frank Camacho, in my opinion. Frank Camacho has some solid boxing. Frank Camacho's been having a tough time getting a victory, though, inside the octagon as of recently, and is actually coming off a big loss to Justin James, where Justin James put it on him, got the finish there. So there's definitely some question marks with Frank Camacho right now in his career. Frevola, like I said, man, an awesome dude. He's a well-rounded fighter for the most part. He's going to be going into this fight with a 2-inch reach disadvantage, 1-inch height disadvantage. I don't expect that to play much of a factor at all. It's not much to talk about. Both these guys right in the primes of their career. Frevola coming in as a 2-1 favorite. I do find that a little bit surprising, I guess. But I do like Frevola to win this fight. Held his own against Arman Sarukian. I think that's why his stock's kind of going high right now, because Arman's been putting it on everybody. And Matt Frevola, he hung in there, It wasn't finished by Arman. Wasn't really beat up too bad. And before that, he took out Luis Pena. I was there for that fight. I didn't necessarily think that he won that fight, but it was close. Took out Jalen Turner. That was a solid victory from there. Used his wrestling and his grappling. Maybe he could do the same here. Maybe he can work in some takedowns on Frank for some points for the scorecards. Unless this fight ends in a finish, which I wouldn't be shocked, being that Frank is willing to engage, and Frank's been hurt as of recently. Been finished in his last 2 fights. In fact, you take a look at his last 4 fights, they're all by way of finish, win or lose. But yeah, I could roll with Matt Frevola here, the steamroller. I'll roll with him to win this fight. The line for me is a little high, though. I think the line should be a little bit lower, in my opinion. So maybe some of you guys see possible value in Frank Camacho there. I don't know how you guys looking at this fight here, but that's kind of the way I see it. And again, though, big shout out to Frevola for taking the time to chat it up with me, and I'd love to have him on the show again in the near future. And once we start getting some episodes rolling again, which we will, especially once I have the new studio going here. So yeah, we'll go with Matt Frevola to win that fight. In the next fight, we got Pannie Kianzad taking on Alexis Davis. Pannie's been looking very good as of recently, rolling with 3 wins in a row. The loss that she took was against Julia Avila, tough fighter there. Takes out Jessica Rose Clark, Betch Coera, and Sajara Eubanks. That was a good win there for her. Pannie's striking has really came around. She's been looking very, very clean on the feet. Alexis Davis, you guys know the deal with her. Crafty veteran, a girl that's fought for the belt years ago against Ronda. She's a very polished jiu-jitsu player, Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. She likes to take her fighters down, use her wrestling and her jiu-jitsu to control them there. And that's what she did in her last fight against Sabina Mazo, another young prospect in the division. She was able to take out. So is she able to do the same thing here against Pannie? I'm gonna go on the other end. I'm gonna take Pannie to win this fight. I think that she'll be able to keep this fight standing for the majority of the fight, hopefully, where she'll be the better striker and she could take Alexis Davis out by way of decision. I kind of see that going down more likely than anything else, but I would not be shocked if Davis shows up again and can use her grappling to stifle Pannie and get a decision victory there. Maybe she pulls off a submission victory. I'm not sure if I necessarily see that. I think Pannie can hold her own down there enough to survive. Pannie's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. I don't expect any of this to play much of a factor here. But yeah, I'm going to go with Pannie. The line, -220. Not crazy about that line either. It's another line that, especially in this type of division, be careful. Especially when it comes to women's MMA, when you have one fighter that may be the better grappler. Because if Alexa gets her down and sets the precedent with the takedowns, you're going to be sitting there frustrated for 15 minutes as your ticket is an L. That's how I look at that. But look at Pannie with the nice flowing curly hair blowing in the wind, huh? Let's see how Pannie looks fight night. Now, this is a fight here. I don't know why I glossed over this fight when I was initially scrolling through the card, highlighting some of the bouts, because this fight may very well be a top 3 most intriguing fight on this card for me. You guys know, for those of you guys that have been following the show for a while, I'm very, very high on this guy, Movsar Evloev. I think he's one of the more talented guys in the division. I think he has all the potential to be a future champion. This was a guy that already had his act together over in Russia, before he made his American debut and before he made his way over to American Top Team, one of the best gyms on planet Earth. You see Christoph Jocko in the back over here. You guys seen me in some pictures of him. I bumped into him at the local bar and whatnot. But really cool dude, Christoph is. But Movsar is just brushing shoulders with some of the best fighters in the world. I really love what they got going on over here right now. You see Thiago Moises, Gleason Tabo, or excuse me, yeah, I think that's Gleason, right? Tony Gravely, a lot of tough guys, man. This is just a little snippet of the guys he's brushing shoulders with. And I think that we've been seeing it in his game. His game is constantly evolving. He is super, super fast with his transitioning, with the grappling, constantly getting takedowns on guys. And even if you try to reverse him, as soon as his butt touches the canvas, he's jumping back up. He's reversing you. He's back up. He's striking. His striking is very quick too. He has very quick hands. I like his overall kickboxing game. It's diverse. I love his cardio. I love his pace. I love everything about him as a fighter. When you got money on a guy like him, he's going to show up in every single way. He's not going to let you down. He's undefeated at the moment. Took out Nick Lentz by way of split decision. I think that should have been a unanimous decision. Took out Mike Grundy, Enrique Barzola, Sang-Woo Choi, and then Rafael Diaz over in M1. So yes, the big names aren't there as of now. I think Hakeem Dawodu would be one of the bigger names that he could put on his resume. Hakeem is absolutely no joke in his own right as well. Hakeem has nasty striking, beautiful leg kicks. This guy could really put it on you. Could stuff the takedown pretty well. So this is a big test for Movsar. I really do believe that it is. I think that Movsar is up for the task, though. If I've been supporting Movsar for a long time, like I've said, and if I'm gonna say things like he has the potential to be a future champion, this and that, he's 27 years old right now. He's got to be able to take a guy out like Hakeem Dawodu. Hakeem, it was a little bit questionable if he won that last fight against Subara. It was a close fight. Some people thought that he lost. I wouldn't argue with you guys there. It was a close fight, but Sabara is a tough fighter. The Julio Arce fight, I think that was another one that he might have got the better end of on the decision there too. He's 29 years old, strolling right into the prime of his career. He is no joke, like I said. This is a big-time fight here. The winner of this fight's really, really going to push their way towards the top of the division. I like Movsar. Like I said, just so well-rounded. I think that Movsar will have the edge as far as the grappling goes and whatnot. I could see him mixing in some takedowns along with the striking. He could hold his own with the striking too, but he has to be diverse in the feet, mixing things up. Movsar is as high as a minus 250, which, if you analyze those Movsar lines, that's actually one of the lower lines you'll see on him, obviously, because a little bit of a step up in competition. I like Movsar to win the fight, minus 250. Are you comfortable with it or not? I like Movsar to win, and like I say, I think Movsar has the potential to be a future champion, so I think you guys know where I stand as far as Movsar Evloev and his overall game. So yes, Movsar is obviously the pick there. We're going to go down to the flyweight division on the women's side. We got Lauren Murphy taking on Joanne Calderwood. JoJo, Bad Mother Joe. I don't know how everyone say that. Mojo, Mother Joe. Joanne Calderwood, one of the fighters I'm more fond of over here in this division on the women's side. I like Joanne. I like her style. She brings the fight. She's ruthless. She's nasty. She has a nasty Muay Thai game. She'll throw elbows in there. She'll carve you up. Throw some good leg kicks here and there. You got to love her little, her soft voice and whatnot, and then she goes out there and she's a killer. So, I like her. Lauren Murphy, a lot of you guys remember her from the show, The Ultimate Fighter. Her and Eddie Alvarez didn't get along. She has a little bit more of a rough around the edge type of personality. Kind of a personality probably a lot of you guys, or most people, wouldn't like as much. She's been putting it together, though. 4 fights in a row, taking out girls like Andrea Lee. I think she lost that fight, though, right? Got the split there. Roxanne Modafferi and Lelaya Shakarova took her out via rear naked choke there. Been putting it together. She's a tough fighter. She's already 37. She's about to be 38 years old. She is up there in age. Still steps into the octagon, always in great shape. She's very muscular, very strong, has good cardio. If you have holes in your grappling game, she can push you against the cage. She can get some takedowns on you. She can hold her own on the feet. Joanne Calderwood, I think, will be a little bit more technical on the feet, but maybe I give the edge to Murphy as far as the strength and the grappling goes. Calderwood is no spring chicken either. 35 years old now, too, which is crazy because she looks like a young girl still. She ages very well. Calderwood's going to have a 2.5 reach disadvantage, even though she has the height, 1-inch height advantage. Excuse me there. The line is very close on this fight. I'm going to edge Joanne Calderwood in a very close fight where I think Calderwood will be a little bit more technical on the feet. And now that she's rocking the stash too, it's really got to help her overall game. I think, like I was talking about that Mojo, Bad Mother Joe, she's going to bring some of that into the octagon with her. And the big ticket says, I mustache you a question there. But, so she, like I said, man, she has a good personality. I'm definitely rooting for Joanne to win this fight. But it's not just that I'm rooting for her. I think that she has the ability to definitely pull this victory off. And a girl like Lauren Murphy, who's up there in age. And even though she's on a 4-fight win streak, that 4-fight win streak is questionable. So, I don't know about all that, though. But, the pick is Joanne Calderwood in a close fight. And the line is close, so whatever you guys are feeling there, I like Joanne. And she is the slight favorite there. Very slight favorite. We got a rematch here, and Eryk Anders taking on Darren Stewart. You guys know how this fight just took place. Ended in controversy. Eryk Anders threw a knee when Darren Stewart was getting worked. When Eryk Anders was working Darren Stewart, Eryk Anders was on his way to finish that fight. This really should be a TKO victory. He made a mental error in there, but before that, he looked phenomenal. I was actually quite impressed. I thought Darren Stewart was going to take this fight. I thought it would have been kind of a close fight maybe, but I like Darren Stewart here. Darren Stewart, obviously a nasty striker. A lot of guys are always hanging on Darren Stewart, trying to drag him down to the mat. And even down there, he's had some evolution in his grappling game, but he has crazy power in his hands. And I thought he was going to get the better of Eryk Anders the first time around, if I'm being honest. Eryk Anders showed to be the more diverse and better striker there. The fight was not that long ago, 2 months ago. I don't expect too much to change here. I got to go with Eryk Anders to win this fight now. We just saw them throw down, and Eryk Anders was the better fighter. I'm going to leave it as simple as that. And Eryk Anders also a guy that I've had on the show. One of my more interesting conversations. We talked about that porn star friend he had, all that stuff. You guys can look it up in the archives. MMA Live discussion. I forget. But Eryk, your boy Anders, a very cool dude. I got to go with him to win this fight this time around after seeing what we just saw. And I think the fight takes place in the feet. These guys brawl it out with the crowd all going crazy. But it only takes one shot from either of these guys. If Darren Stewart could rock Eryk, things might play out differently. But both these guys have pretty tough chins. Eryk Anders has a granite chin as well. So I like Eryk Anders to win that fight there. Minus 145, a little surprising, being the fact that we just saw him defeat this guy. But I guess people still respecting the fact that Darren Stewart, we know, is no joke as well. And if he shows up and it's his night and he starts throwing some bombs, it could be the same exact thing that happened last time could be happening this time. I think we understand that. The fight game is crazy. The fight taking place at the 205 division too. So both these guys not cutting weight. Keep an eye on that fight, man, for fight of the night or just one of the more entertaining fights on the card. We got Drew Dober taking on Brad Riddell. Two very polished strikers. Drew Dober, definitely one of the better strikers in the division. Really the only hole that he has that's keeping him from really working his way to the top of the division is his grappling. We saw him get worked by Islam Makhachev in his last fight. That was a big fight for him because if he would have won that, it would have been 4 in a row. And he had some big wins, taking out guys like Alexander Hernandez, Nasrat Hakparast, Marco Polo Reyes. He put him out in a nasty way. So, Drew Dober, like I said, this guy was a Muay Thai champion, a nasty Muay Thai fighter. Brad Riddell, one of the nasty strikers in the division, like I said, also working with City Kickboxing, with Izzy and his whole team over there. Obviously, those guys are nasty strikers, and Brad Riddell does this thing. You take a look at Brad Riddell in his last fight against Alex da Silva. He had a slow start in that fight, but once he started to get going, you saw he's no joke. I don't know if he wants to start things off as slow as he did in this fight as he did in his last fight, because Drew Dober will start to pick up the pace very quickly and put it on you. Stylistically, again, this fight right here is another candidate for fight of the night, man. These guys are going to be throwing down on the feet. That's what I expect. I expect these guys to throw down on the feet, and I'm going to give the edge to Drew Dober there. I love Drew Dober striking. He's nasty, and yeah, I think that's just the way I'm going to go with this. I like Drew Dober. The line, take a look at the live line right now. We got Drew Dober at right around minus 135, so a slight favorite for Drewby, and comes in phenomenal shape. This dude's ripped up. And like I said, again, I'll say it. Just the one hole that he has is his grappling. And quite honestly, I don't believe we'll ever see him make those strides to ever, make it to the top of the division against guys like Islam and Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira. Those guys, their grappling is on a whole nother level. I don't think Drew can close that distance, but he could definitely engage in some exciting fights, especially in spots like this against a guy like Brad Riddell. And those fan-friendly fights where he's fighting another striker. And I like Drew Dober here to show up. But Brad Riddell is absolutely no joke. And anything could happen here. This is a very close fight. But I like Drew Dober. All right, we're on the main card here. Paul Craig taking on Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill. A.K.A. or, he's also known as the guy that has the worst tattoo in the fight game. Those two chicken scratch thumbs up. I don't know. He needs to get that covered up. I don't know what's going on with that. Paul Craig, on the other hand, he has some cool tattoos, some weird stuff going on there. But the Bear Jew, Paul Craig, I'm a fan of his. I love his antics in the octagon. I love when he walks across as they're calling each other's names. I love how he gets in the other guy's face. I love his energy at the weigh-ins. I love his heart. We've seen him getting beat down for 14 minutes and 58 seconds before and still pulling off victories the last second. This guy has a lot of heart. Really loves to work his grappling. Coming off a big win against Mauricio Shogun Hua. That was a fight where he really consistently pushed the takedowns, eventually worked the ground and pound. Submitted Gads Murad Antigulov before that. That guy's a flake anyway, but still submitted Vinicius Moreira, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. That was a big win for him there. Mauricio Rua had the split decision also there. Or that was the split decision draw. I think he should have won that fight anyway, but still. So Paul Craig's been doing his thing. We know the recipe with him. His striking is not on the level of a lot of these guys, but he tries to exploit their takedown defense and their grappling, and he'll push the pace, and he's a big dude, 6'3" with the 76-inch reach. But Jamahal Hill, he's no No midget either. He's 6'4" with a 79-inch reach. He's a big boy. I was gonna say he's young. He's 30 years old, but it's really the mileage. Only 8-0. He's very young in the game. This guy does not have as much as experience as Paul Craig. So we still got to see, if he is the real deal. We need to see him inside the octagon more and more. But he has looked good as of recently. Ever since Dana White's Contender Series got the knockout there. Took out Darko Stozic by way of decision. Took out Darko's okay. He had Klidson Abreu knockout. He knocked out Klidson Abreu. I don't know why they have it as a D. I think there was maybe some controversy in that fight. And then he had the victory over Ovince St. Preux, which was a big win because OSP was going in there taking out these young bucks. Kept upsetting them, but not against Jamahal Hill. Jamahal Hill's a nasty striker, very light on his feet for his size. He has power. He could definitely hurt Paul Craig here. I think he's going to take Paul Craig out. I got to lean. I got to lean with Jamahal Hill here. I think I could just see him hurting Craig. Craig's striking is just, it's not on the level. So as long as he can keep the fight standing, it's his there. But if Craig is able to somehow start getting some takedowns and maybe start to work the gas tank of Hill's, you can see some funky stuff go on there. But I think that's a little bit less likely than seeing Hill stuff those takedowns and start to hurt Craig there. Might look a little something like that as we see a Shogun cracking Craig on the chin there. But yeah, I got Jamahal Hill. The line is a little high, in my opinion. I'm not really crazy about the line. It's a high line. There's some question marks going into this fight. But I like Jamahal Hill to win the fight there. Over in the welterweight division, we got Demian Maia taking on Belal Muhammad. Demian Maia coming off a loss against Gilbert Burns. Let me just talk about Demian Maia for a second. One of the greatest submission artists that we've ever seen fight inside the octagon or in MMA in general. I'm a big fan of his. Demian Maia, though, the recipe is there to beat him. You have to stuff the takedowns, keep the fight standing, and the victory is yours. Easier said than done, but we've seen that, right? The recipe has been set by guys like Colby, Woodley, Usman, all those types of wrestlers. Belal Muhammad, does he have the takedown defense to stop Demian from getting this fight down to the mat? Because if it does go down to the mat, I don't really care how good you are at jiu-jitsu. Demian Maia can finish the fight down there. His grip strength is ridiculous. The power of his squeeze is ridiculous. You take a look at him here, finishing off Rick Story. I don't remember if that was even completely under the chin as like an actual rear naked choke. I think that was almost just a squeeze on the jaw. It was cranking his jaw so bad. If you remember, blood was squirting out of his nose and he just tapped out. It was more of almost a pain choke. But it might have been starting to slip under the neck a little bit more and more as you see here. But his grip strength, his squeeze is ridiculous, and I hope he's able to get this fight down to the mat and we see some grappling exchanges. Looked phenomenal against Ben Askren. That was a really good look for him there. Being able to take down Ben and use his wrestling and all that. Just his overall grappling game. It's not just he's a submission guy. This guy can get takedowns. He can rip you down to the mat. Belal Muhammad, coming off that big main event spot where it was a tough loss or tough no decision there. He got poked in the eye. It was basically a loss for him, because he wanted that win so bad, and the way things just played out were horrible for him. But now he has an opportunity to clean that all up if he gets a win over a legend in Demian Maia. He has to keep the fight standing. He's a better striker. Belal is so active in there. Belal is extremely active. One of the more active fighters in the fight game. I got to go with Belal here. He has the youth. And I'm going to leave it quite simple for you guys. If Muhammad keeps the fight standing, he wins this fight easily, in my opinion. If Maia is able to get takedowns time and time, I think he maybe pulls off a finish there, gets a submission, or can really control him down there and hold him down there. But even if Maia gets a takedown early, maybe sometimes he starts to gas a little bit. Maybe Muhammad can stuff them later on. But still, you're going to be playing with fire if you get the fight down to the mat in the first round. So, an interesting matchup to say the least. Enjoy it while you can because Demian Maia is creeping up on 44. I don't know how much longer we'll be seeing him inside the octagon, so just enjoy that fight. One of the top submission artists that we've ever seen in the game. So really, just enjoy that. For those of you guys that are fans of BJJ and grappling inside the cage. All right, Leon Edwards taking on Nate Diaz. I'm really excited for this fight because anytime Nate's fighting, man, I'm excited to see it. I'm a big fan of Nate Diaz's. I've been watching him from way back. I'm one of these original. I'm one of the originals. You guys know that. I'm sure a lot of you guys are that are listening to this too. But I've been watching Nate, man, from The Ultimate Fighter, back when he was a young buck, back when he was, flipping the bird off, choking dudes out. Who was that? Kurt Pellegrino, I forget, but they had the little beef. He's throwing the bird up in the air. Back when he was whooping up Cowboy, which that doesn't even seem like that. That was that long ago, taking out guys like Gray Maynard in the rematch. Remember, he TKO'd him. That was a nasty knockout. I think the way he knocked out Gray Maynard was almost more nasty than just sleeping a dude. The way that Nate Diaz walked away, putting his hands up in the air, and Gray Maynard still stumbling and then falls flat in his face. What a nasty TKO that was. Nate Diaz, some of the best cardio in the game, great submission, and a great overall BJJ game. I wish he would work on his physical strength. I wish he would lift some weights and stuff. I think that really holds him back. He's a vegan and this and that, and he's just more on top of his cardio and that type of stuff. But I think it really cost him in those matches against top dudes that are just stronger than him and that could throw him around. Like we saw in the Roy McDonald fight, the Rafael Dos Anjos fight. There's a bunch of those fights we could talk about, but you know what I'm talking about. Even Masvidal was just, Masvidal hurt him on the feet too, striking wise, but Masvidal was the physically stronger guy in there, and I expect this to be the case too. I think Leon Edwards is going to be way stronger. Leon Edwards is the bigger dude, in my opinion. He's 6'2", doesn't have as much of a reach, but I think he's physically bigger, more muscular. I expect him to be able to keep this fight standing, and I really think that he's going to actually bloody up Nate pretty bad here. Nate has a lot of scar tissue. We see it open up every time right away, and I expect Leon to really bloody him up. I'm rooting for Nate all the way. I hope Nate could do something here, but I just don't see it. See the resemblance in this big time, huh? Nate looking like a kangaroo that's annoyed right there. But again, Leon Edwards, extremely technical. I know Leon Edwards hasn't been the most active, and he had that unfortunate situation just recently with Belal Muhammad in the main event. But don't sleep on Leon Rocky Edwards. He's a nasty southpaw. He has power. He's super, super technical. He can grapple as well. Even though he's fighting over there from the UK, he has wrestling and takedown defense, and he's polished up there too. So I don't really expect Nate to be able to exploit him on the ground. And I don't think Nate could even get the fight down to the ground, to be quite honest. But I'll be rooting for Nate. The line's extremely high already on Leon. You had to be on it early possibly, or I don't even know if maybe you'd rather just enjoy watching the fight rather than trying to play around with the minus 500 ticket. But I think Leon Edwards is going to get his hand raised, quite honestly. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's by way of a TKO at the cut or something like that. But he's going to be piecing him up. But maybe Nate could drag him in the deep waters and he gets tired. Maybe we see some holes in his cardio and Nate takes over in the later rounds like we've seen in the past. I don't know. But I got Leon Edwards to win the fight. That I do know. We got a rematch here. Another rematch on this card. Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Brandon Moreno. What a fight this was the first time around. An absolute war. These guys just went straight at it. And Figueiredo had some nice moments early. He really hurt Brandon. Brandon was resilient in there. He hung in for that entire fight. He started to tag up Deiveson as well. Just an overall back and forth war. Figueiredo, of course, has nasty power. He has underrated grappling. So the first fight was a majority draw. So, even though it was a draw, I still kind of felt like Figueiredo maybe edged him a little bit, just in the overall fight when you look at it. Figueiredo landed probably the heavier shots in there, in my opinion. Figueiredo is an awesome dude, man. This guy could really carry the flag for Brazil, in my opinion, as one of the bigger stars, one of the bigger Brazilian champions. He's just a ferocious fighter, and I expect this fight to be nothing less than fireworks. I'm gonna let you guys know right now, I am taking Figueiredo to win this fight. I think it's a close fight. We'll have to see how it plays out. Anything could happen in here. Brandon could land a shot and wobble Figueiredo and, set the precedent for the fight and take over, possibly. Moreno's probably going to be, one thing to take note is Brandon will probably be the more evolved fighter from the last fight, being that he's 27 years old, and meanwhile Figueiredo's 33. I don't expect to see as much growth in Figueiredo's game as Brandon's game. Also, Moreno, the learning experience from that fight, I think it's gonna be more beneficial for him. So I do think the line is too steep for me. Kind of edging Figueiredo here. Maybe keep an eye also on my Instagram and wait to see what I officially pick. But it's probably going to be Figueiredo. But don't be shocked if I swap it up. I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, you said this fighter. No, I might be on Moreno. I want to see how these guys look at the weigh-ins. I want to see how fight week plays out. And as far as the line, 2-1 favorite. Keep an eye on this fight. But Figueiredo is no joke. Brandon will have a 2-inch reach advantage. He's 2 inches taller. A little bit naturally of the longer, bigger dude, I guess you would say. Figueiredo a little bit more muscular. Again, I'm a big fan of Figueiredo's game, and this fight was an absolute war the last time around, and I expect it to be something just like that once again. So I'm excited for that fight. Careful with the line. So that will bring us to the main event. So excited for this fight right here. It's for the championship of the world in the middleweight division. Two guys that have a little bit of bad blood. They faced off once before. It was a close fight. I will say this. I think Israel Adesanya won the fight. I gave him the first 2 rounds, and Marvin Vettori did win that 3rd round with the takedowns and whatnot. So keep an eye on that, though, because now this is a 5-round fight, and we were able to see Marvin start to break Izzy down that 3rd round and get some takedowns and hold him down for a little bit. So what would happen if there was a 4th and 5th round in that fight? Also, I will say I do believe that Marvin is a little bit more of an evolved fighter from the last time these guys fought, if I'm being honest. Izzy's striking is going to be just as good as it was, which is some of the best striking we've ever seen in the fight game. He's been working on his takedown defense, but he is coming off a fight where he was controlled on the mat and taken down more than ever. Of course, it was up in weight against Jan Blachowicz. So, I mean, I understand it's a bigger dude and whatnot, but let me tell you something. Marvin Vettori's been really looking good on the mat. He's been taking dudes down. And not only just taking them down, he's been submitting guys, working ground and pound. We saw him do that to Carl Robertson as of recently. Was really able to hurt him down there. He finished him with the rear naked choke. Kevin Holland took him down time and time again. Of course, Izzy has way better takedown defense than Kevin Holland. The Jack Hermanson fight was a good look for him. Styled on him on the feet. I think that Marvin's striking has evolved and is better than the last time these guys fought. Still got to edge Izzy there on the feet. But I think it might play out closely, and don't be surprised when they go into a dogfight, kind of like the Kelvin Gastelum fight, where we seen Gastelum land some big shots and hurt Izzy. Remember, he wobbled him in the 4th round. I think I could see Marvin doing something very similar to that. Marvin has that tricky southpaw stance, just like Kelvin. Throws a nice left punch, and it's more straight than Kelvin's is too. It's a little bit more dangerous. Marvin only 27 years old. This guy's cruising into his prime. Izzy's in his prime right now. I think there's more growth here for Marvin, and I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up and he's the better fighter this time. Like I said, it was an extremely close fight the first time around. I like Marvin Vettori to win this fight here and to become the first Italian UFC champion. The Italian dream. I think he gets the job done here. It's a 5-round fight. I have some question marks still, man, with Izzy's takedown defense. If you looked at the first fight, even when he stuffed some takedowns early and then eventually was taken down. I don't know. He stuffs some takedowns even like against Kelvin, but they're not really those attempts that he's been stuffing weren't really the best of takedown attempts. If Marvin shows up with his A game and is really cutting angles in there and really using his wrestling the proper way, which I think he can, I expect him to put Izzy down on the mat and control him there. I think his wrestling has evolved and it could be done. I'm not crazy about Izzy's takedown defense. Like the guys that he's done it against, I don't really feel they were implementing the game plan properly, to be quite honest. And I think that when he fights guys that are legit wrestlers that actually know how to stick to a game plan, not like a Yoel Romero fight where he doesn't even go in for one takedown. What a joke. Who has Izzy really, stuffed takedowns against? I don't see anybody here, huh? I don't see anybody that he stuffed takedowns against that was an actual wrestler. The Derek Brunson fight, that fight ended quickly. Brunson didn't he didn't implement the game plan properly. So you see what I'm saying? I mean, the only guy that actually even did was Vettori back then, and he got a takedown in the third round, got multiple takedowns. Other than that, striker. Kelvin was looking horrible with his takedowns, and you know he's not really, even though he has the wrestling experience, he's never really doing that either. He's there to strike with you. And then, like I said, it's just all strikers. And then you saw Jan Blachowicz stick to a game plan, work the takedowns in the middle of the octagon, and he was able to get takedowns. I can easily see that happening here. I like Marvin's striking as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Izzy gets a knockout or vice versa. If either of these guys get a knockout in a dog fight, 2-1 odds on Marvin. Not bad. I'm sure a lot of you guys will disagree with me. A lot of you guys are going to be high on Izzy here. I understand it. I know Izzy is very, very talented, but something's just telling me Marvin here, if I'm being honest with you guys, man. Something's telling me Marvin. And you guys know I was on Jan Blachowicz too. That was an official play of mine. We cashed in big on the dog play that night. Made big, big money on that fight card. And I believe that was right around the Super Bowl weekend. I kind of expect something similar to happen here. Not saying for sure if I'm betting Vettori, stay tuned and see how that plays out. But I like Marvin Vettori to win this main event fight. So, that's how it's going to go, boys. Please like this video. Please subscribe. You guys, I appreciate every single one of you guys, especially you guys that have been hanging out with me throughout this entire video. Whether you're driving around in your car, just listening to the audio, if you got it up on the big screen up in your house, if you got it in the laptop, whatever you guys are listening to this or watching this, however you're doing it, I appreciate you guys, man. You guys are supporting me over here. I love talking about these fights. I live and breathe the MMA fight game. Of course, the UFC is where it's at, but I love it all. And I appreciate you guys tuning in just to hear my voice and hear my thoughts on these fights. It really means a lot to me. I promise you guys big things to come, and I'll keep the content solid here for you guys. So for those of you guys that will be watching The Ultimate Fighter tomorrow night, I'll have the recap of that episode Wednesday early. We're going to be doing the featherweight division, I believe. I think that's what you guys requested the most. So we'll be doing a breakdown of the featherweight division, I think it was, or the bantam. I'm going to double check who commented the most, what division you guys want to see. We'll do a full breakdown of that. That'll be coming out to you guys soon. And that's going to wrap up this episode, and it was a pleasure, man. You guys all have an excellent week. Make it a productive one. Get in the gym. Make sure you guys are hustling with your work, eating good, taking care of the ladies, doing your thing over there. If you're a woman and you're listening to this, make sure you guys are doing your thing as well, man. Shout out to all the ladies that are watching as well. Appreciate your guys' support and love. And on that note, signing out. The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.